everyone, I'm Sam Ingram, the CEO of Northreach. Today we have a very frosty webinar that we're actually going to be bringing with you. We're going to be talking a lot about how to actually build your dream team for 2023. And I'm joined by Robbie Blake here, my senior consultant who works with us at Northreach. 4 years experience now working in recruitment, is that right?
Yeah, 4 years, started in August 2018.
Is it that long ago?
That long ago. It feels like a long time ago.
You had more hair then?
A lot more. A lot more. And a little bit more sanity too, I reckon.
Yeah. It's a crazy time for us because we've obviously about to move our offices and everything as well, aren't we?
Yeah, it feels like almost a yearly thing now at Northreach. It's like everything's always changing, and being a small business, you have to lug tables around and put screws in and kind of put shelves up, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's what we've been doing today, isn't it? Literally got all these brand new like stand-up desks. Yeah. Literally, there was an absolute nightmare trying to get the bolt to the thing.
Whoever
you
made the
lost
desk,
your mind.
Yeah, I was very close to throwing the table. What the problem was, whoever made the table legs hadn't spoken to the person that made the table.
Right.
So when they come to making the bolts meet, there was just no communication at all.
And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it is. That's got an unprompted segue.
No, it was. I like it. No, really, really good. There we are. We're going to talk about how to actually build a great team. That's ultimately it. It's really tricky to kind of do, but that's something we're going to have a chat about today, which I'm looking forward to kind of getting the thick of that. I've actually got a note here. Apparently, you're the classic king of comedy at heart, who is renowned for his comebacks. Yeah,
it's not a self-made title. I didn't call myself that. That'd be quite egotistical.
An avid football player with particular fondness for barbecues. Is that right?
I think it's foodie. It's meant to say foodie.
That's the victory. Yeah. I know it's me reading it wrong. That's what that is. Devoted Red Bull advocate and Toy Story fanatic with a passion for football.
Yeah. So if you've got a barbecue, you've got Toy Story on, and we can play football afterwards, I'll be there.
You're the man.
Yeah, I'm all over it. Anything else, I'll think about it.
Welcome to the show, Robbie.
Thank you, Sam.
Let's get into it. Look, you've got 4 years kind of experience. I've been working in recruitment for 16 years? Should I say that?
A little bit longer.
Yeah, I've got too many grey hairs for it now. But the same kind of problems always kind of existed, right? Like when you're looking to hire people, it's always about that kind of team kind of structure. If you kind of hire someone and they're great, it's such a good impact. But if you get it wrong, it can be such a toxic and negative kind of impact to not just to the business, but the people around it. And it can offer it can be really crappy.
Definitely. I think there's a difference between hiring people for the sake of people and hiring people to actually grow the business. And I think sometimes people fall into that trap of, we're really busy, we're really snowed under, we just need to get people through the door, compared to looking at it and going, okay, why do we actually need this person?
Well, we've seen that a lot, right? You kind of get these companies that get funded or, a wicked bit of technology, whatever it may be, and they get thrown a ton of cash, and it could be to someone like super passionate about what they do, but it's like, right, now go and build a business, go and build a company, go and hire 150 people, build a culture, understand it, embed them in, all the rest of it, off you go.
Yeah. It's not as simple as going, right, I need to go from point A to point B, I need 60 people to get there. The first 60 people that come in that can do it, I'll hire, because people are people and not everyone gets on and not everyone's going to be right for that type of business. And like you said, when it goes well, it goes really well, but when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. Yeah. So it's about finding the right people to drive the business forward, not people that are going to hold it back.
Yeah, probably starts with just good planning, right, like anything. I think that you mentioned it in terms of rather than hiring for hiring's sake, actually thinking about it. And I always kind of use the analogy with people around, think of it as like a football team, right? If you had a load of Mbappe's, which would be amazing, by the way, because where they've kind of got to in terms of World Cup, but would that be the best of the entire squad? You don't want like a whole team full of strikers. You need to think about each kind of element of that game, just like a team. It's just exactly the same as business. You don't need a whole room full of people doing the exact same thing. They need to kind of have different attributes, different ideas, different kind of angles of the business or like the pitch ultimately.
Yeah, definitely. It's about having a balanced team as well, and not everyone has to think the same. Yeah. I think even when you talk about culture, a lot of people fall into this trap where it's like, okay, this is how we are as a business, so we need people that buy into this vision. But sometimes it's like, okay, we've been doing this for this many years. a different perspective kind of comes in and goes, okay, there's different ways we can innovate on this, and
Yeah.
different viewpoints and different ways of thinking. Culture isn't just, I think like this, so I want everyone else that thinks exactly the same.
Yeah, do you know what? We see so much of that, right? Where we have companies that kind of just say they need to do X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C, and come from this background, bang. You kind of think you're just trying to carbon copy yourself in to some degree. And what kind of room are you leaving for a different idea, a different angle, different point of view? Business is not just like a cookie cutter approach. There's so many ways to kind of do it.
No, exactly. No, completely. It's finding that. I think it's finding that balance in all aspects, not just the experience, but also that cultural fit as well, which is so important, and where I think most businesses fall down.
Yeah.
Is they go, okay, we're going to hire all these people. I know what I need experience-wise, but then what they don't think about is how is that team actually going to work on a day-to-day, and the communication, and actually, are they actually going to get on? Is there going to be friction? How does it all sit together?
Yeah, there's a few pieces, and I think when it comes to actually building a well-defined team, that plan to kind of start, like we said about, is the kind of starting point of it. But then it's like, okay, how do we make sure we kind of, I suppose if you're kind of starting from scratch, let's just kind of think about it like that, rather than companies already been built. How do we kind of get these people in? What questions do we need to ask? Thinking about cultural fit and skill, and then starting to think about how is that going to work within like a group, and how do you manage that? There's a lot of like how really within need to do it, and sometimes it's just about changing it and analysing it and just kind of letting go a little bit. I mean, we've done it before, right? I am definitely a victim of this, I suppose, and kind of doing the job that you do when you're hands-on, you get very protective, and to kind of start letting people do it their way. We always kind of said it more recently, is that you got to kind of like scuff your knees a little bit. You got to make a few mistakes to actually find your own path. And I think that's a big part of it. If you're going to have a team, let people make mistakes, let them learn, let them develop, support them when they need to, rather than just being a dictator. That seems to be quite a big part of it as well.
No, definitely. But yeah, it always comes down to that planning and looking at where the business is at now, where you want it to be, and I think that scalability comes in so much as well, because it's all well and good saying I've got loads of money I need to spend, but if you've not got the infrastructure to do it, then that needs to come in first to then allow you to do that scalability.
Yeah, it does as well. And I suppose at the minute it's really tricky, isn't it? Because if you are kind of looking to hire or to build a team, there are so many kind of other things to think about, as in, unemployment is still very much at an all-time low, which is amazing in one respect, but then it's pushing demand up in the market. So candidates are definitely kind of getting overinflated offers in some cases, but you've got to still keep up with it, because if your competitors are doing it, your employees is going to be like, well, I'm not getting paid the same, so I'm going to leave. So it's a never-ending kind of cycle at the moment of, you could find the greatest people, the right kind of culture, but if you don't reward them in the right way, and if it just comes down to like brass tacks at the minute, where everything's super expensive to live here in the UK, if you're not keeping up, they're going to leave, even for a worse job. And that's another thing to think about too. So it's not just as easy to go, here's a great lot of people, put them together and off we go.
No, you have to, at the end of the day, business is business, and people are there to pay their bills. As much as you can have all of that, the bottom line in a lot of cases is the money behind it as well. So you need to keep up with what not just the market is saying, but in particularly your competitors as well.
Yeah.
And then even from there, there's all the other things that go with it in terms of, okay, do you offer bonuses? Do you offer, work from home? Do you offer, other benefits in terms of like pension and healthcare? And, it becomes so complex, and you kind of really need to sit down and go, okay, where do we sit in the market? And if we are not where we need to be, what can we do to bring it up to compete with everyone else as well?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, like you said, that's so important, because if you don't have that piece, you're going to get left behind, and you can have the greatest environment and really good people, but money talks a lot of the time as well, unfortunately.
It does.
So it's
where have you seen it being done well? Have you seen it anywhere done pretty well, or equally anywhere that's maybe not mentioned any names, but where people can develop or can be helped, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially in fintech, a lot of the organisations offer everyone that joins equity in the business.
Okay.
And where they're privately owned and where it is so commercially driven, it gives people a real incentive to say, okay, I know that I'm being asked to help drive this business and, help this business grow. I'm going to get paid a salary and I'm going to enjoy what I do, hopefully, but where's that extra incentive? Where's that extra incentive to go and do it? So by saying, okay, look, in 4 years' time, 5 years' time, we might be looking to launch publicly or sell it. I think Coinbase is a good example of this.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of the people at Coinbase, although the IPO
lost a lot of
launch,
money on that straight away.
yeah, a lot of people.
You put some money into that as well, didn't you? First
No, I was very close, but I
it was
thought
just me and Ben, was it?
Yeah. I think Phil might have as well.
Yeah, I think we did. I remember we watched the announcement on it on the TV.
Yeah, I remember being on the TV. Yeah, and I
it all
remember
up.
weeks later when someone mentioned it, and there was a lot of sad faces.
It was ridiculous. Literally, it was heard the promise, and the price was just kind of going like this, and it just dumped literally within like seconds.
Yeah, but I suppose if you worked at Coinbase and you'd built it up to this, what was the valuation when it launched? It was in the billions.
I think it was like. Was it something 50 billion or something?
Yeah, it was really inflated. But if I work at that company, I go, brilliant. Might have been here 5, 6, 7 years, however long.
Yeah.
I've got all of these shares. It's gone public, and I've just made
X amount.
5 figures, 6, 7 at the top end. That's the extra incentive for people to go, look, we know that we're asking a lot of you, but there is something in it for you at the end of the road as well. So that's a good example.
I think technologies in whole kind of do this really well, right? Like you've got, like you said, fintech companies kind of offer equity. It's massive, high risk, high rewards because they can have like a VC kind of backing it, put 100 million and whatever, 200 million. But if they can sell it for billions, giving someone a couple $100,000 is like wicked, happy days. But as an individual, that can drive you hugely. If you're money motivated and you want to work hard, get paid, they're great environments, aren't they? It doesn't always work. So I think in the biotech kind of space, they throw out quite a lot of equity, lots of startups, and the actual science they actually do is very, very pioneering in the sense of cell and gene therapy, which is great. And they do incentivise it that way, but a lot of it is still, the work is so difficult, and these are intelligent people like in fintech, but if they can't still innovate in their own research and see that progression and working with good people, you give someone £1 billion and it's like, well, if he's not a nice person, how PC can we be on this podcast?
Yeah, I was you called that there. I was like, okay.
I know, I was going to go for it, and I thought, I don't know, maybe on the second episode, but yeah. If you're kind of working with people that are just not great in terms of the culture and what they're doing, it still makes the days super long.
Yeah, massively. And I think coming out of the pandemic, that's such a big thing. It's like post-pandemic, how often were we asked about, can I work from home? Maybe once in a blue moon. Whereas now it's almost like one of the first things people are asking. And
how much logic are you seeing in this? Because this is one thing that I still can't get my head fully around. A lot of people still looking for jobs, right? Employment's on an all-time low, so we get that. There's still a fair amount of opportunity out there, but why are people still looking to move? On the whole, what do you reckon?
I think it's coming down to a change in mindset.
Yeah.
Where it's that like immediate gratification. Whereas before it's quite an old school mentality of, you need to stay in a job, for 10 years, you move your way up, you work up the ladder. You think about a lot of the more traditional, banks or, a senior person there has been doing it for a long time. Whereas with these more innovative, younger organisations that maybe have only been running 7 years, if you've been with them for 4 years, all of a sudden you are mid-management, senior person. Whereas maybe 10, 15 years ago, you weren't.
No.
So I think it's that immediate gratification that people are looking for now. And I think it's that digital era, right? If you want something, you go on Amazon. You don't get it delivered the next day. You go, oh, well, I'm going to go elsewhere.
I literally did that. I literally did that the other day. I think I was looking at something for Secret Santa like last week, and it literally said, I'll be with you on Tuesday, and it was like Thursday. I thought, that's too long.
Yeah, it seems like an age away.
Whereas, I didn't need it. No. I was like, it's too long.
Yeah, so, I think that's the and this is I'm kind of digressing here, but that's the benefit of technology, right? Is that you can do things that you'd never dream about, but it almost becomes too quick now, where... I send a text out, you get it immediately. If you don't reply immediately, you're thinking, well, is it me? Is it them? Like, you start overthinking it, and
people delete their messages though. You seen that?
Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah.
I don't know. It's massive digression, but I suppose it does kind of fit into what we're talking about in terms of building teams, because this is the mindsets of people now. So if they're not getting that instant response, instant gratification, I can't see a clear progression within a very arguably short period of time. It's like, well, my progression's not good here.
I think progression isn't, if I do this job for 5 years, then I can get promoted and get, a small percentage pay rise. Progression now is, okay, I want to know exactly where I can go, how long it's going to take me to get there, what the benefit of me actually progressing to that is, And if people don't see it, they will just go because someone else will offer it.
I think that's a big part of this, right? Because you can't, I don't think it's almost possible to kind of get a good team together anymore unless you can say, this is the clear kind of vision and this is really what's in it for you. Really. Like, we're doing this as a team, but this is what's in it for you. And if we do this as a collective, we'll kind of all be successful and profitable and have better careers and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think individually speaking, to get people to even work in a team, they still need that, what's in it for me? And
Always.
if it's not quick and it's not like nimble and, you know, we've had it recently, right, the office has been a right nightmare. We have no heating, and I'm surprised people haven't actually collared me already for that. Well, they have. I've honour. Behind the camera.
Yeah, in about 10 minutes we'll have to de-ice the camera, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But it is. It's stupid stuff like that, isn't it? Where kind of people go, oh, this is just like noddy. It needs to, and we get it fixed and it's whatever. But I can imagine if those types of things happen all the time, there can just be little things people go, oh, this is just a bit rough. Like, find somewhere else that's just a bit better.
No, and even talking to candidates, you know, it never seems to be like this massive thing has just happened and that's why I'm looking. It's always over the last 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, certain things haven't happened and I've sort of gone, okay, well, there's always tomorrow, we'll see how it goes. And then, like you said, it's a culmination of those little things that if you siloed them probably don't mean a lot, but when you put it all together, you know, it does make a big impact on people. And
I think so. So I think that's the kind of key to it, isn't it? It's almost like if you're looking to build a team and you've either kind of looking to build it from scratch because it's brand new, you need to kind of inherited it and it needs fixing or whatever it may be, it's almost kind of setting a clear kind of objective what you want from that team. And I've always thought about this, is take the people actually out of it for a moment. So you might have a team of 3 or 10, but you automatically think of the people you've already got if you're there. You can't do that when you're starting. But imagine that. Imagine if you kind of have in a situation where you've kind of got a team, you've just got a new job, you're the lead, and the team's underperforming, whatever. You've got Johnny and Sally don't get on, they don't speak or whatever, and you're in there to kind of change that. I think you've got to look at it and think, right, these are the actual roles that people are doing, and this is what each one of those roles does to ensure that team is functional, and then almost have written kind of responsibilities for those jobs in a job spec, and then set those expectations out for the job rather than the person. Definitely.
I think when you're starting from scratch, you can have this image in your mind of saying, I need someone to do X, Y, and Z, and I know exactly how it's all going to fit together. And I think sometimes I don't want to use the word easier because you've got more people you need to go out and find, and you fall into this trap of going, okay, I need someone to do this, and this role is this person, this role is that person. But if someone brilliant comes along and they can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that,
it's a song, isn't it?
It sounds like it. I think I've just got Mambo number 5 there. But if they've got half of one part in that person's mind, they go, right, I can do half of that job and half of that job. Do you then change the function for that person? Do you then say, look, I need to find someone that's got exactly this? Because a lot of times it's how difficult is it to find someone that's got exactly in your mind that perfect person?
Yeah, sometimes it's not, is it? Because particularly if it's legacy, you might have someone that's doing a bit of it all, and you might not have any budget to have someone to do that specific job. So
yeah, sometimes I think if you've already got a team existing, it's that same sort of thing where you look at you kind of reverse it. You look at exactly what your team needs to achieve and the objectives and the goals. Who have I already got in my team? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And then by looking at that, going, okay, where's the gaps that I then need to fill in the team? So if it's, for example, I've got people that are really analytical, really methodical, but the team just lacks a little bit of creativity, you know that, okay, that's the sort of characteristics I need to be looking for. Yeah. If you've got a team that are super vibrant, really energetic, but maybe they lack a little bit of that more kind of analytical, kind of take a step back, kind of
could be like typical sales, for example, right?
Yeah, so if you
tend to be more that way inclined.
Yeah, yeah, but you need someone to just sort of take a step back and just sort of calm things down and then look at it, maybe a little bit more. I've got hindsight, kind of the word in my mind, but that's not the right word. But just someone who can kind of take that step back and look at it. Then okay, that's the gap that I need to fill.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. So, do you remember we did this like lean in, lean out kind of thing a little while ago? I'm just see if I can find it again online. But there's this as well, right? Because you're going to get people, particularly in like what we do in sales, really, might be great at one aspect of a job, not very good at the other, but they need to be good at it. So I think, again, like, if you kind of buddy them up with people that are better at the other attributes you need, and that's where a team really kind of works. You don't need a team full of strikers.
No.
But if you need a striker, for example, like, you get them to lean into where they're good at, right? So you kind of get them to write it down. You tell me what you love about your job. You tell me, what is it that when you do it, it's super fast paced, time goes really, really quickly, you just enjoy it. But then tell me the task that you know you have to do, but the time drags, you procrastinate, you just don't want to do it, but you know you have to. And then tell me the stuff that you're just kind of doing just to pass time that's not important. And you write that down. And I think if you can do that with a team, you could almost go, right, you've got so-and-so over here that's great at this kind of aspect. He could be really good in terms of business development strategies, able to kind of plan like an absolute legend and whatever it may be. But his administration kind of like, he's reporting and that he's completely awful, but he's super important. And you've got someone else over there that is super organised and methodical and all those kind of great words. You could almost match those guys up to lean into where their strengths are. And I think that's something a lot of places and teams can overlook, is that you have them as a team, think about individually where their strengths and weaknesses are, right? But then use them to kind of buddy up the skill they're kind of lacking, for a better word, or need to enhance. But then with the people that are good at particular things, get them to kind of showcase what their kind of ways of doing things are. So then that whole kind of knowledge base is shared. And you stop getting prima donnas as well. I think that's one other thing. I mean, when you're kind of looking to hire in a team, you can't have someone that's just great at just doing one thing. And that's kind of it. Like, that's all I do. That's all I do. You can't have that.
No.
It's too egotistic in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. It's the egos in a team as well, and ironing those out as well.
Yeah.
Because it's probably easier to highlight in our roles because it's quite numbers driven, right?
Yeah, true.
But if you've got someone that is smashing the numbers, they're miles ahead of everyone else, but they are just a right pain in the arse to work with, then you can kind of say, look, you might be the best person in the world, but no one enjoys working with you.
Yeah. And you're actually becoming a problem for others.
Yeah, and you're putting everyone else down. It's like you're holding back the team. If you just leaned out of that and you kind of said, okay, I'm really good at this, I can help the others grow and develop that, and the things that you're not good at, whether it is the administration or reporting, whatever it may be, you can kind of get that support from everyone else. It brings everyone up.
Yeah.
And then also for that person that is, overachieving, it kind of alleviates probably their stress levels and how much they're having to work, because then they're not having to carry the weight of people that aren't performing to that level. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. And I think you can almost do this like right from the get-go. So I suppose if you're in that luxurious position where you're looking to hire individuals and build that kind of team from scratch, you can build that in from that interview process from day one, right? You could have a clear plan in terms of what that team needs to look like in your mind map it, do all the research, whatever, but don't just hire for the skill of it, hire for the will of the person as well. So when you're interviewing, you can make sure that interview process is not just based on your technical kind of expertise in terms of whatever profession you're in, but now let's tell me about, what we say in interviews, like what you like outside of work then. What would your friends say about you? That always catches people out.
Yeah, I think it's so true. People don't like talking about themselves, and
really,
especially in an interview capacity, because you're so hung up on, I need to make sure I can do the job, that when someone does throw those questions out there, people just freeze.
Yeah.
And it's probably just as important, because it always comes into the types of people that are going to be working together, and especially when you're building a team from scratch and building a business from scratch, it's like these people need to gel together.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a massive organisation, sometimes things can go hidden. There's so many people, you can't meet everyone. But when you're in a smaller company where, like us for example, there's 18 of us. Like,
is that right?
It sounds
like I should know that.
Yeah. Yeah, but if 18 or however many people, all it takes is one sort of thing, one bad egg or something that doesn't quite fit right, doesn't quite gel into the culture, and it is so obvious, and it just feeds out, and it affects everyone. It's not just that individual team or that individual person; it's the whole business that affects.
Yeah, no, it really.
And especially and it's especially from the top down as well.
Yeah. And look, here's the crazy thing. I think as you kind of do get bigger, and even if you're in a big company, I don't think it necessarily matters. I think it matters just as much, because think about this for a minute. Your culture is really defined by your direct hiring manager, or the direct lead ultimately, and his or hers, same to them, and da 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 da. So a company isn't one culture, it's multiple cultures, all different kind of things. So I think the company culture just needs to be more like, these are the values or the guidelines that we work within. How you want to kind of determine that for yourself and your own kind of little group is kind of on you, but it needs to feed into the whole thing. And I think that's the only way to do it if you're a big company, but it works perfectly in a small one, because anyone you're kind of hiring is ultimately only going to report to one or two people for the whole business anyway, right?
No,
So
you're not going to have, loads and loads of hiring managers and line managers when you are a company of 18 people.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have.
Do you know what? That kind of makes you think about that, because if we kind of think about that process, everything you kind of do from that plan of the expectation, the interview, and who you have in it and how many rounds will determine what people think of it as well. We've seen it before, people have like 10 interviews.
Yeah.
So you're kidding me? I have 10 panels of people, you can't make a decision on whether you think I'm right for a job. And it's not that I know that they're right for the job, they think they're right for the job, because the knowing is doing.
You can never know. So you can never say, I know they're right for the job.
No.
Because you can only get so much from an interview. And like anything, when you actually walk through the door, things are constantly evolving and changing, and
Yeah.
you can't know. You
know.
can only base it on the conversations you're having. And like you said, you don't want to go too far one way or the other, where you go, we need to hire super quickly, come in half an hour, this is who we are, this is what we do, I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know who that person is at all.
No.
But equally, you can't go too far the other way, where, like you said, they're meeting everyone in the company, and it's like, you need to show me some conviction as a candidate that you actually want me here.
Yeah.
It's almost like, how much do I need to prove myself before you'll actually say yes?
I think it's okay when you're just like, we want to kind of have lots of people meet you. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But we've definitely seen it where you have, I think developers particularly get it, where it's like, all right, you're going to go through 8 stages of interviews, or 9 stages of technical interviews with like all these different people. So they're going to go through a really rigorous kind of thing. And I kind of get it, because I suppose they could argue and say, well, we're going to know that they're going to be good for that job. But it's like, yeah, you will know technically that person's right, but how is that kind of left them feeling from a cultural perspective? Yeah, it shows that you're really thorough, but how kind of personable has that been? How kind of like decisive has that kind of been? And how quickly? So I think that's another big thing. Like, if it takes weeks and weeks on end, it just kills it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think recruiters help?
I'd like to think. Some people might disagree.
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest part of what we can help the businesses do is that personal approach and that personal touch, because it is a full-time job taking someone through that whole process. And especially in a small organisation, you aren't going to have the luxury of having the time to sit down with someone and go through absolutely everything during that process and help them prepare, and all the bits that we do that kind of goes with that candidate, getting them through to hopefully the end of the process.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think,
and it becomes, if you don't have that personal touch, it just becomes very transactional.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like partnering the right partner, particularly with using agencies and whatnot. Like, there are a dime a dozen. We are one of them, but I suppose for us, we've always kind of known that kind of just understand the business bit and actually give a damn matters. I think that's ultimately it. That's been the secret to it, is that actually care a little bit, and actually think about it, care about what this actually means for that business. Because if it is a success, you've helped that. If you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, like, that's what kind of gives the whole thing a bad name, and it's not going to give that person getting that job any better kind of experience. So actually, we can enhance it, but also, like everything, we can make it really shit as well.
When you don't take that extra time and effort to kind of go through that.
It took me 45 minutes, I think, to like not swear. So that's a record for me.
Yeah, we've done pretty well there.
Yeah, but I think that's the kind of the majority of the kind of questions to think about that there when you're looking at building a team. It's like making sure you're kind of thinking about that plan of why you need it, and not just because you've got the head count, so I need to. It's like, but the why, like what they're actually going to be doing. think about that process, about how you're going to bring them in right from the kind of get-go to when they actually start that whole onboarding experience, because that will kind of feel a lot. It's like everything, like first impressions mean everything.
Yeah, so much. Like starting a new job is really daunting as well.
Yeah.
You don't know, you don't know exactly what it's going to look like. When you go to work, you've been doing it, you know the people. When you rock up on that first day, the worst thing, it's my absolute pet peeve, is it goes, oh, I got an email late Friday saying rock up at 10 and ask for this person at reception.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Cool.
What do I expect? Like, I encourage it as much as possible. Speaking to hiring managers, like, give them a call if they've got long notice periods, especially in the bio side, right? 3 month notice. 3 months is such a long time.
Cool.
Like, go for a coffee, grab lunch before they start. It doesn't seem like a lot, but to that person that's starting that new job, it genuinely does make such a big difference.
It means a lot. There's not many other big things you can do in everyday kind of life, right? Starting a new job is daunting because it can be great, can be terrible, can be everything in between. So I think if you can get that piece of the puzzle kind of right when you're bringing them in, that's a really clear one. And then setting those expectations from the get-go. And I think also not being afraid to actually have those kind of harder conversations, to be like, this is the development areas and this is what we kind of expect and need. But it needs to be clear. It's just about that communication. I think that's a huge kind of part of it. And not taking for granted about where you work as well. I see this a lot where people kind of go, oh, but we have, if you stay here as a small company, so you get exposed more, so that's better. And you go, it's the most vaguest thing I've ever heard in my life. And you'd hear it and you kind of go, but why? And they can't answer it because it's just a throwaway comment. And it's, I think, actually, if anything, it's being just double down on what you're actually saying. If it's very much like, not a lot of people kind of come in, really, people kind of keep to themselves, but this is kind of the way the culture actually is, but we go for a beer on a Thursday, just say it. Because people still buy into it. You don't need to buy in 7 billion people, just one or two.
Yeah.
So if that's your culture, just be proud of it and be like, this is what we do.
Yeah, and don't try and please everyone either. No. Culture's not about pleasing everyone, because then what you get is this corporate wishy-washy meh that comes out where it's like, you can't please everyone. Some people are going to walk through the door and they might be absolutely perfect technically, but if they don't buy into what you're all about and what your company stands for, or just don't get a good feel, it's not going to work out. Don't try and plaster it over for everyone. No. If that's how the team is, that's how the team is.
So it is. It's like dated, isn't it? You wouldn't stay with like a partner just because, I need a partner.
Yeah,
like,
no, exactly.
Well, some people I suppose do for whatever reason, but I think if you're honest with yourself, you already know. I think the same honesty is when you're hiring and you've got a team of people and you're working, it's like, it's okay. Because if you're not getting anything from it and I'm not getting anything from it, it's okay to just say, let's just call it a day. Yeah. I think people get so hung up on that piece of it. It's like, oh my God, I've been sacked, or I don't like it, it's going to be a big deal. It's like, well, it's just a job. Like, if you're not getting on, then go. It's not prison.
Yeah, no, definitely.
No, it's not that easy sometimes, right? Because people kind of feel like they can't get another job, they need something else to grab onto beforehand, and they've got other commitments, etc. Same difference, though. I think it's just about being honest with your brand and your, even as an employee, right? Like, it's being honest with yourself and going, if it's not right, it's just not right. Yeah,
no, exactly. No, definitely. It's got to fit for you at the end of the day.
On that bombshell. No, I think that kind of ties it up in my mind, at least for the kind of this part of it. For those kind of listening that actually care about what we said and got this far into it. How many minutes is it? Like 50 minutes of it, I suppose. If you've got this far, I think ultimately the kind of key takeaways are really kind of plan and think about why you actually want to do what you need to do, rather than just the skill. Think about the actual culture and the people you really want within it. Have a clear kind of mission and an idea of exactly what progression actually looks like, and be honest with that. And that's a really good one. Think about the competition, what others are actually doing to attract those kind of people to you over those. And if you are using agencies, just make sure you've got a bloody good one and just call us.
Yeah, we can tell if they're good or not.
Yeah, we can tell if they're good or not.
Use an agency that actually take a vested interest in what you do. It helps.
It does. All right. Well, on that bombshell, thanks very much everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.